Talking points.
Talking point. Talking point.
Talking points.
Talking points.
Talking points.
Talking points.
Talking points.
Talking points.
Talking points. Talking points.
Talking points.
Hello and welcome to the April 2016 edition of Talking Points. Talking Points is the panel discussion program in which we discuss stories which have appeared in Today River Valley. Today River Valley is the video news feature program for the towns of the Androscoggin Valley in Maine. My name is Phil Blampede. I'm the host and producer of both programs, and we're coming to you from Bistro 151 in the Sudbury Inn in Bethel, Maine. Behind me, you can see us checking our notes as we get ready for the discussion. Let's start by introducing the members of the panel. Lori Heron is the founder, editor, and publisher of Bethel Living, a magazine with in-depth articles about people, events, and places in the greater Bethel area and the western Maine mountains. Lori owns and operates Royal River Graphics in Bethel, where she creates websites and promotional and marketing materials for businesses throughout New England. Find out more at royalrivergraphics.com. She's currently a member of the board of directors of the Bethel Area Chamber of Commerce.
Steve White retired after 38 years operating Sunday River Inn and Cross Country Ski Center with his wife Peggy, served 34 years as a selectman in the town of Newry, and 23 years as a commissioner on the Maine Land Use Regulation Commission. Steve now serves on the boards of many local, statewide, and regional nonprofit organizations, working in areas including youth wellness, conservation, recreation, education, forest health, and community resilience. As for me, Phil Blampede, I launched the video feature show Today River Valley 3 years ago. It started on the internet and eventually got region-wide placement on WPME TV. My idea was to take the kind of community journalism found in local newspapers and translate it into a video program. Not only can you find the program on WPME, but you can watch it at any time at todayrivervalley.com.
Talking Points is sponsored by the Sudbury Inn. Lodging, fine dining, and a lively pub in an historic inn, right on Main Street in Bethel, Maine.
Make the Sudbury Inn your headquarters for your next trip to Bethel. Centrally located downtown, this charming 19th century inn offers accommodations from a full apartment with its own fireplace to deluxe two-room suites to single rooms. And you don't have to go far to find the best of Bethel, with fine dining in our main dining room, pub fare and live music in our popular Suds pub, and a bistro menu and bar in Bistro 151, which features light fare with a creative flair, lobster ravioli with a shrimp cream sauce, sweet pea and caramelized onion ravioli with a blue cheese sauce, blackened sea bass with a cucumber salsa, citrus glazed veal short ribs with an Asian sauce. The Sudbury Inn is family-friendly, can accommodate pets, and as the magazine Bon Appetit put it, is the perfect way to end a day in Bethel. Call today for more information.
In Dixfield, they have once a year a silent film night where an expert silent film accompanist, a man who plays the keyboards and plays old-timey music in accompanying old films, comes, and a very old building in town called the Tuscan Opera House is open to the public, and people, quite a few of the townspeople in Dixfield make a habit every year of coming to the silent film night to hear the live accompanist accompany these silent films. This is a very graceful, it's kind of a sweet use of a beautiful old building. The Tuscan Opera House is over 100 years old, and it did in fact show silent films about a century ago. So this is kind of a bringing back in a very graceful way something that actually did take place in this old building. The building is not in very good shape. It would be very expensive to bring it back to its prime. Certainly having a silent film night once or twice a year wouldn't provide the funds necessary for the expensive restoration that is required in this old building, as in many old buildings. It underlines the predicament that's faced throughout the state, where there are many old, historically valuable properties in severe disrepair, but the cost of repairing them is far greater than any subsequent use that could be gotten out of them. Is the goal of trying to restore all of the beautiful old architecture, all the beautiful old buildings in Maine, unrealistic? Should we throw in the towel and finally just say, well, some of these buildings just will never be brought back to their former glory, and just let whatever happened, let nature take its course, and let the buildings be replaced eventually by more modern buildings?
I say it's a mixed situation. In the case of the Dixfield, the Tuscan Opera House, beautiful building, but in order to keep it open to the public, doesn't it need a huge amount of repair? I don't know what the system, where their sprinkler systems, correct exits, all of those things. I don't. Has it had those updates?
That I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if they could come up with an investor that could do that. You know, in the case of 49 Franklin, for example, Scott Grissett worked 7 years with his own, with his family to bring that up to code, and I'm sure you know the amount of work that he had to go through to do that. But he is self-sustaining. If that was the city of Rumford, it's a different thing. You know,
If you had to go through 7 town meetings, I don't think you.
Yeah, I think if you have a private entity, it's completely different than if you are expecting a community to support something that needs that much maintenance.
Well, in Rumford, there's a section called Strathglass Park.
Yes,
with
beautiful.
many beautiful century-old brick duplex buildings that are in severe repair. And many of these buildings could easily absorb $50,000 worth of repair, but the market value of these buildings, the half duplexes, is only about $35,000. So
crazy.
So yeah. So what do you do in a situation like that? Do you just let them go by the boards, or?
Well, I'm
hard.
a real proponent of making sure that the historical record is around, but I don't think that you can save every building. I marvel at Norway and South Paris and being able to find $300,000 or $500,000 to put into buildings just to get them propped up so that somebody can think about restoring them. I think there are probably a lot better uses for that money. But that having been said, there are people who just love to save old buildings, and if it's private money that's going in there, I guess it's up to the private individuals. However, I think if the question is, should we save all old buildings, I don't think that's possible.
But it's such a joy to drive through Strathglass Park.
Mm-hmm.
It brings you back to an era and a time that we don't live in anymore. I mean, the beauty and the architecture. It would be wonderful to find someone to come in with a lot of money and save the whole place.
Well, there are both state and federal historic tax credit programs where if you undertake a high dollar value project, so you put $100,000 into restoring an historic building, you can get tax credits back. But those credits are applied against the taxes that you owe. So if you're only making $50,000 a year and you have a $3,000 tax liability, I don't know whether the arithmetic's right there, but more or less something like that, and you've put $40,000 into historic restoration, you can only take advantage of the first $3,000. The rest, unless you're making $1 million a year and you have a massive tax liability, the tax credits probably aren't something that you can fully take advantage of.
Right.
So it's a very limited program for very deep-pocketed people who want to restore old buildings. And there's an additional problem in that whenever you get involved with the tax credit program or any kind of grant program, very often the government requires you to restore to an historical standard. The building needs to, when it's all done, be in the same condition as when it was first built. And in Maine, the Maine Historical Preservation Commission polices that. And you actually have to check with them for every step of the restoration project, and that increases the price of the restoration considerably. Is the perfect the enemy of the good in this case? If there's an historic restoration project, should it always aim for trying to be historically accurate, or can a half-done semi-historical restoration be acceptable?
Depends on whether you are on the side of the Historical Society or if you're on the side of the community member who would like to see the building itself preserved, perhaps the shell preserved, but not worry about all of the accoutrements inside.
In the case of many of these theaters, I've recently been into a few old town halls. There's one in Greenwood where I go to pick up my food co-op order twice a week. I got there a little early. I went upstairs and there's a beautiful theater up there with green velvet curtains, and the woodwork is amazing and nobody uses it. But I believe that there is a significant value in hanging on to theaters for the purpose of entertainment. You know, we're all so busy tweeting and Facebooking and Instagramming and connected to our mobile devices, but there's something different that happens in the case of a theater, live theater. You know, there's the performance, the production, the actors play off the crowd plays off the actors. You can't get that with a video game. You can't get that on Netflix. There's a magic quality that I believe it's worth preserving for, you know, in these historic buildings. It's just always a challenge to come up with the funding.
There's a whole slew of regulations and laws that work against that, though. It's not only the building code, but the whole business about making sure that everybody can get up there. And if you look at those stairways that goes straight up, you know, there are a lot of people who can't climb, and so you'd have to put in an elevator, which is an added expense. So it's a hard question.
Talking Points. We'll be right back.
Year after year, residents of the River Valley have been able to count on Murphy's Accounting Services for tax preparation and accounting services. In business for over 30 years, Murphy's is ready to help with your return. And don't worry if you're a little late this year, we can easily file for an extension for you. William and Deborah invite you to call for an appointment or use our easy drop-off service at Crescent Avenue, just off Route 2 in Rumford. Open Monday through Friday, 9 to 9, Saturday until 5.
The thing about Pat's Pizza is that it's informal, but the food is really good. It's not just pizza. They make their own dough there, they make their own lasagna there, and it's a very comfortable place. You go in and it's a rustic post and beam interior. Portions are incredibly generous. Staff is friendly. You know, I like trying the microbrews. They have a selection of microbrews at the bar. They have a 6-page menu. It's you have to think a while before you make a choice. They have gluten-free specialties, including gluten-free carrot cake. They've been there for nearly 2 decades, and I think there's a reason why. It's a very pleasant place to find some really good food in a comfortable environment.
Pat's Pizza, it's not just pizza. Visit us soon on Route 2 in Bethel. Call ahead for takeout at 824-3637 and like us on Facebook.
For 3 generations, R.E. Lowell has been the family-owned lumber and hardware business with locations in Buckfield and on Route 4 in Turner. Whether you're a professional contractor or a do-it-yourself homeowner, R.E. Lowell has what you're looking for. Become part of the family. When you're looking for hardware or lumber or building supplies, look to Lowell.
Talking Points is sponsored by the Sudbury Inn. Lodging, fine dining and a lively pub in an historic inn, right on Main Street in Bethel, Maine.
Going back to this silent film night, the films during the silent film night were Charlie Chaplin films. And they were among the first movies ever widely distributed. They dated from 1915 and 1916. And one of the things I was struck by was the extent to which, even back then, violence was an essential part of the plot. The plot conflicts and the action in the plot moved along by virtue of Charlie hitting somebody over the head with a bag of flour, or somebody pushing Charlie in a horse drinking trough, or you know, somebody shooting somebody. So it brings the question to my mind of why we find violence entertaining. And the thing that I find interesting is we can sit and watch a movie or a television program that's filled with violence and be fascinated and interested by it, but if we were actually in a situation like that in real life, we would be horrified, and we'd have to go to a psychologist for 5 years afterwards to overcome the trauma. Like if you hired some landscapers, if you happened to accidentally hire the Three Stooges to be your landscapers, and you look out the window and they're hitting each other over the head and slapping each other around, you'd be horrified. You wouldn't think that was funny. So why do we find violence entertaining?
I think that in the Charlie Chaplin and Three Stooges era, that was entertaining because it was so ridiculous. Nobody would ever hit anybody over the head, push somebody into a horse trough. it's got to be funny because it's just not thinkable. But
Yeah.
Today's violence is a whole different story, and that I don't understand.
Yep, I agree. I think the old forms of violence in the silent movie theater, silent movies end with the Three Stooges. It's the shock factor. It's shocking. You're just blown away, and it's not directly happening to you. You've got the distance, so it can be very funny. But I do have issue with violence in movies these days. I have gotten up and left several movie theaters. I think there was a movie. Oh God, it was maybe the 80s Videodrome or something where somebody reaches into someone's stomach and pulls. And I have no tolerance for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got up and probably 2 or 3 times now I've left a theater. I'm just not into that. But I think more and more, and youth these days expect that. They're sort of getting numb to the sensitivities and expect, you need more and more to get entertainment from faster, bigger, scarier, more dangerous episodes.
Well, I think violence shows lazy script writing in part, because if you have a conflict between two individuals, you can either really figure out how they might interact to resolve that conflict in a way that somebody would be entertained watching, or you could just have one guy reach into his pocket and shoot the other, and then the conflict is resolved, and then you can move on to the plot. Well, we don't need to worry about Joe anymore. Let's get out of here. That kind of thing.
Lazy is what you're saying.
Don't you think that plays into a lot of what we're seeing on the streets of the U.S. and in foreign policy? I mean, that's what people are saying. Well, just shoot them, bomb them,
right?
Kill them, carpet bomb them. I don't think it works that way.
So you think Ted Cruz saw too many violent movies when he was growing up?
Could well be.
Oh dear.
Talking Points. We'll be right back.
I'm gonna take all of my real estate needs down to the riverside. Down to the riverside. Down to the riverside. I'm gonna take all of my property needs down to the riverside. Riverside Realty. I bought a great vacation home for when I want to roam at Riverside Realty. I found my new forever home, never more to roam at Riverside Realty. At Riverside Realty.
So come on in. Let us open new doors for you. After all, we are the people-pleasing agency serving all your real estate needs.
Make time for a visit to Norway, a thriving scenic village located just off Route 26 in western Maine. Its bustling Main Street is characterized by unique, locally owned shops, restaurants, and other businesses housed in architecturally significant buildings from the early 1900s. According to the Maine Historic Preservation Commission, Norway's buildings include some of the best examples of period architecture to be found in Maine, resulting in its designation as an official state historic district. Come stroll this charming downtown and look for the following businesses. Woodman's, one of the oldest gun shops in Maine, serving hunters and shooters in the Oxford Hills for 70 years. Excellent supply of ammo, and there are always some interesting guns on hand. Special orders always welcome and discounted.
A local hub in the historic village of Norway, Cafe Nomad offers breakfast and lunch, sourcing fresh local ingredients when available, serving Carabasset coffee, and we have a great wine and beer selection. Hi, this is Alyssa, manager at Cafe Nomad. You can find us online at cafenomad.com and like us on Facebook.
Talking Points is sponsored by the Sudbury Inn. Lodging, fine dining and a lively pub in an historic inn, right on Main Street in Bethel, Maine.
In the February edition of Today River Valley, there was a story about the expansion of craft brewing and distilling throughout the state of Maine. There are many craft breweries brewing beer, hard cider, even whiskey and vodka growing out throughout the state. And it's surprising that this can be done on a small scale. They are all small businesses. because alcohol making is heavily regulated and taxed by both the state and federal governments, and it would seem that these regulations would be a hurdle to a small businessman starting a business with a craft brewery or hard cider businesses, as some have done. I'm just wondering what the factors are that are driving this growth of craft brewing and distilling. What do you folks think?
Well, I think it grows out of the notion of craft partly. I remember having guests at my inn way back along who wanted to open a craft brewery in Maine, and they couldn't do it. They went through all kinds of gyrations trying to get a way through the legal system to do it, and they ended up having to go out to the Midwest somewhere and have somebody brew it for them. But now that it's started, you know, it's fascinating. Everybody loves trying out the different beers, so it really is it's grown out of something you might do in your basement with a 2-gallon carboy or something to, let's see if I can scale this up a little bit. I have a friend who makes, what does he call it, Pennsylvania ale or something for at 10 gallons at a time, and sells it and does quite well with it.
Does the government know that he's doing that?
I think so.
Or is it out the back door if you knock twice and say,
10 gallons at
Steve
a time,
sent
probably
me?
not.
Well, you know, but he bottles it and sells it. So
it must be then.
yeah, it would
must
have
be.
to be.
Yeah.
No, I know some people who just have some on the sly, but that's, I mean, if you make your own, it's one thing, and give it to your friends, I guess.
Well, you're allowed to make, under ATF rules, you're allowed to make, 20 gallons of wine for home consumption?
Per year?
There's a certain amount, I'm not sure what it is, but then you're not able to sell it to anybody.
Yeah, but this is a legitimate deal, and you're right, there are breweries popping up everywhere, and the one in Norway is case in point.
I think it's pretty fun. The Gritty McDuff's was the first brewery in Maine after Prohibition, and shortly after that came Geary's, and now Gritty's offers, I think, 12 beers on tap on a regular basis, plus they're seasonal. What you get with Gritty's is very consistent. Same thing with Sunday River Brew Pub. An IPA from them usually pretty much is always going to be pretty close to the same, but what you get with these smaller craft beers is a variety. They're a different hop with a different, grown in different environments. But I think it's fun. If you're wanting a specific consistent flavor all the time, then go with the bigger guys, but the smaller guys are doing some pretty interesting things. Stuart Littlefield at Artisan Distillery in Oxford is brewing, this sounds very strange, but he's making a lobster vodka. Now it sounds awful to me unless you're putting it in a Bloody Mary. Then it sounds okay, and that's the plan. But he's got blueberry vodka, he's got coffee brandy, and this is all small, and he's just starting to market through Hannaford, and I think it's pretty cool. I do like to move around and taste these small micro brews with small batch. I think it's interesting.
Well, I think that's the idea. Wherever I go and look for something that I haven't seen, I ask for the most local thing I can find. And yeah, I think that's what people like, just signature.
One of the things that Erica Melhus, one of the proprietors of the Norway Brewing Company, said in the February story was that the state of Maine is interested in the expansion of brew pubs in the area because it is part of what appeals to tourists.
But I have to say about the state of Maine is that they are really excited for small businesses, not just breweries, to open. So they really want to help in any way they can to encourage entrepreneurs to do things. So, and also they're really excited about being a state that has a lot of breweries, and they want to make that happen the best they can because that's a commodity to them as a state.
Mm-hmm. If there are many different, they can go on a pub crawl.
Yeah, right.
We do it well. We do it very well here in Maine. It's wonderful.
Well, one of the things about beer, as a beer drinker, that what often makes a beer taste good is how fresh it is.
Right.
And if it's been shipped in from 5 states away and been sitting in a warehouse for 3 weeks and then a week on the shelf in the supermarket, it's going to be flat. Whereas if somebody's just made it this afternoon back in the back of the building and then brings it out to the bar in the front of the building, obviously it's going to be a lot better.
I would take a small craft brew over a Bud Light any day.
It's interesting though, you talk about the freshness because the original IPA, India Pale Ale, was brewed in England and then sent around to India, around Cape Horn, and in the bottom of a ship rolling back and forth all the way. That's what they say gave it the flavor that they were looking for.
Well, I'll add something to that story. Is I believe the reason IPA tastes the way it does is because it's very, very heavily laden with hops, and the hops were used as preservatives for the long voyage.
Yep.
Talking points.
If your shoes don't feel right or your feet hurt, don't ignore the warning signs. Visit Pine Tree Orthopedic Lab in Livermore Falls, the leading provider of corrective shoes and accessories in Maine. Foot problems can lead to pain in the knee, hip, and back. At Pine Tree Orthopedic Lab, we design footwear to relieve pain or discomfort from disease, overuse, or congenital conditions. In our retail showroom, there are 4 certified pet orthotists who provide your initial foot exam at no charge. All manufacturing of your custom footwear, orthotics, and braces is done on site.
Hi, I'm Bruce McDonald, president of Pine Tree Orthopedic Lab, and I'd like to invite you to come to the most unique shoe store in Maine, where we are the foot comfort specialists.
Don't ignore that discomfort. Pine Tree Orthopedic Lab, open Monday through Friday 8 to 5, Saturday 8 to 2. The warmer temperatures of spring aren't that far away, and as the snow and ice melts, the risk of flooding returns to our area. If you're driving and you see water covering the entire road surface in front of you, don't risk it. Turn around. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention report that over half of all flood-related drownings occur when a vehicle is driven into floodwater. It takes only 6 inches of fast-moving floodwater to knock down the average adult and 12 inches to sweep away a small car. 2 feet or more of moving water can sweep away any size vehicle. Don't wind up like the drivers of these vehicles. If the road is flooded, turn around. This message brought to you by... In flooding or any emergency, it's critical to have a reliable cell phone with reliable service. At the Wireless Zone on Route 2 in Mexico, we're here to help you get the kind of service you can count on. Call 207-369-0016 or stop by. We're open 7 days. And by Stony Brook Recreation and Stony Brook Variety. For over 30 years, Stony Brook Recreation has been the year-round family camping experience right on Route 2 in Hanover, Maine, and it now features a full-service convenience store open 7 days a week. At Allison's Salon and Spa, 1520 Auburn Road in Turner, we offer everything from cuts to colors to foils to perms to pedicures and manicures and more. Women, men, and children are welcome. Let us make you look as good on the outside as you feel on the inside. Sarah, Allison, and Courtney invite you to stop by any day from Tuesday to Saturday. Walk-ins are welcome.
Talking Points is sponsored by the Sudbury Inn. Lodging, fine dining, and a lively pub in an historic inn, right on Main Street in Bethel, Maine.
Well, that's it for the April 2016 edition of Talking Points. Talking Points, of course, is based on the program Today River Valley. If you've never seen Today River Valley, what are you waiting for? You can find it at todayrivervalley.com on the internet, or you'll be able to see it on WPME TV in this time slot next week. Today River Valley and Talking Points alternate on the weekends between 11:30 p.m. Saturday night and 8 a.m. Sunday morning. Take a look. Well, this is Phil Blampede, the host and producer of both programs. Enjoy your spring, stay well, and see you next month.
Talking points.
Talking points. Talking points.
Talking points.
Talking points.
Talking points.
Talking Points.
Talking points.
Talking points.
Talking points. Talking points.
Talking points.